welcome to our special show, Living Long and Healthy with COVID Vaccination. On this show, we're going to try and dispel any doubts, any concerns that you may have regarding the COVID vaccination. We're also going to emphasize that that's the only way that you can protect yourself. It's the only way that all of us are going to find a way out of this pandemic. We have doctors to take all the questions and doubts that you may have. Joining us today on the show, we have Dr. Puneet K. Verma, Director and Chief Interventional Cardiologist at ACE Heart and Vascular Institute, Mohali. We also have Dr. Ramdas Nayak, HOD, Senior Interventional Cardiologist and Electrophysiologist at the Rajagiri Hospital in Kochi. Thank you so much, doctors, for taking time out and joining us, to address all these concerns that people have regarding the vaccines. Dr. Puneet, I'd like to start with you. Where and to whom should one report any side effects that one may get after taking the vaccine?
Well, it's this way that patients, once they are, or public or patients, whomsoever they may be, once they are vaccinated, they are kept compulsorily for about a 30-minute observation period in the vaccination arena. So it's important that any side effects of the vaccine, which we then like to monitor, will obviously be seen in the next 30 minutes because that's the crucial observation period. Thereafter, these candidates or patients, whatsoever they may be, whomsoever they may be, they go home, and in case they are counseled that in case they do develop any further effects or side effects of if they are uncomfortable in any form, they should report back, preferably to us wherever the vaccination has been given, or to the relevant specialist in case they do complain of some headache or vomitings, or they complain of some erratic pulse or breathing difficulty, then they should go to the concerned specialist.
All right. Dr. Nayak, continuing with this effects of the vaccine, there have been reports that some people are developing blood clots after the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is, of course, known as the Covishield vaccine here in India. Is this something we need to be worried about? Recently, even the UK admitted that, yes, there is some kind of a link, even though they emphasize that the cases are very, very less.
There are few reports of having blood clots post-vaccination, especially stroke. We also have come across few of them. And when we closely analyze these people who had the stroke, we found that these people had already had a high risk of having stroke. That is, having a high blood pressure or uncontrolled diabetes, dyslipidemia. And one of them even had cardiac arrhythmia to develop a stroke. So we cannot for say surely tell that this is all related to COVID vaccination. As per current data, there is nothing concrete evidence to say that vaccination causes stroke. My suggestion will be that everyone should get vaccinated without any fear or any hesitation.
Dr. Verma, how about people who are on blood thinners? Because that's a question we get very often, that, if you're on blood thinners, do you get the vaccine? Do you tweak your medication? What would you say to that?
Well, here I must tell you all that, see, there are basically two categories of blood thinners which we use in our medical practice. One are the oral anticoagulations or the oral anticoagulants, most of which we might need to stop one dose before the vaccination, or sometimes even two doses, depending on how the blood coagulation parameters are. So this, once the patient comes to us for counseling regarding the vaccine, we obviously tell these things to them. The other are the routine blood thinners which are used in our heart patients, so for patients who have undergone bypass surgery or angioplasties, or even our own medical management. In them, you really don't need to stop these blood thinners, which are the antiplatelets, which actually includes drugs like aspirin, clopidogrel, and the other new blood thinners. But important is to educate the patient that whenever you do get the jab, it's important to keep the local site pressed for at least 8 to 10 minutes, preferably more than 5, and up to 10 minutes is quite sufficient. So a minor bruise at the site of the jab is very common, and you needn't panic about that.
All right. Dr. Nayak, for heart patients, is there anything that they need to look out for after getting the vaccine?
See, post-vaccination, mild fever, headache, body ache are very common. About 50% of them do get this. and there is that which can be managed conservatively by taking a paracetamol or so. Having said that, patients with heart disease need not worry at all. The same symptom can occur in this particular patients with heart disease. Having said that, you should be very careful that if this patient develops chest pain or breathing difficulty or palpitations, he or she should reach to the nearest hospital or to the doctor where he consults. He should reach there immediately.
All right. Dr. Verma, is the vaccination effective in patients who have uncontrolled hypertension and heart disease?
Well, it comes to, again, the same old question that people, whether we are living now in COVID times, please do not delay your routine elective treatments, even if they are interventional based treatments to be delivered in tertiary care hospitals. Do not go around or move around with a label of uncontrolled hypertension or heart disease. That's risky, the least to say. But yes, there is no data as such that you cannot vaccinate these patients. We have sufficient evidence of safety to suggest that all patients with heart disease need the vaccine, they need the jab, but simultaneously their treatments for their underlying medical conditions, whether it is related to heart or any other part of the cardiovascular system, or that matter, the human body, it must continue and it must be properly addressed. So, by and large saying, yes, the vaccine is safe.
All right. Dr. Nayak, in this, with this disease, we have many asymptomatic cases. Should they still be tested?
So, asymptomatic patients definitely has to be tested for two reasons. One, we don't know whether these people are going to be super spreader. We are in a second wave now. We have to be more careful. The SMS policy should be maintained in high levels, that is social distancing and sanitation and mask. This should be done. And more so, my take on will be more people should get vaccinated. There should not be fear in taking vaccination. There should not be any hesitation in taking vaccination. By giving this vaccination there, you can develop a herd immunity. That's the only way in which we can go ahead. Just by doing testing is not going to help us. By just getting vaccinated, I think everyone should get vaccinated without having any second thoughts.
All right. And speaking of the crisis, Dr. Verma, the big news now is about the variants. And if you could tell us a bit about that, these mutations that we're seeing, are they more serious?
Yeah, of late, of course, the second wave in the country is now being attributed either to the UK strain or the Brazilian strain or to the South African strain, but it dominantly seems to be the UK strain, which seems to be causing the mayhem at present. But the mortality as such, again, is not, it's almost matching to the previous one, and it's possible that as we now see our patients who are admitted with in the second wave, there are a lot of lung complications we are seeing in our patients now. So certainly the morbidity has increased, the duration of hospitalizations have gone up, but ultimately how it translates into mortality risk only time will tell. But certainly there are indicators that the new variants are more infectious.
All right. So that's why we must continue to, practicing all COVID protocols and vaccinate ourselves as soon as we're eligible. It's time for us to slip into a short break. We'll return with more. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching our special show, Living Long and Healthy with COVID vaccination, and we have doctors answering all your questions regarding the vaccines and the disease. Dr. Ramdas Nayak, will taking the COVID vaccine affect a person's blood pressure?
Definitely not. Hypertension is not a specific side effect of COVID vaccine. And however, if a patient is hypertensive, he should definitely get his BP controlled before taking a vaccination. There were few papers initially or certain rumors initially saying that certain kind of antihypertensives, that ACE inhibitors and ARBs can increase the chance of infection, or the infection can be more serious, but it has been proven wrong. I feel that every patient, whether it is hypertensive or non-hypertensive, especially patient with hypertension who are at a higher risk of having more serious illness, should have his blood pressure checked, get it under control. ACE inhibitors and ARBs are safe in COVID patients, or they may not get a serious infection at all. So hypertension has nothing to do with COVID vaccination.
All right. Dr. Verma, now, while we're asking everyone to go ahead and get themselves vaccinated if they're eligible, there's also talk that perhaps we'll have to get the vaccine every year, given that COVID, is expected to move among the population. What is your view on this?
Well, of course, we first need to define as to what the efficacy of this vaccine is going to be. We understand that we are operating with two vaccines, the Covaxin and the Covishield, something which has an efficacy of about 60 to 70%. And probably the duration of protection is variable, though, between 3 to 6 months. So certainly we would like to assess the antibody response of the vaccine, say, after 3 months of the final jab, and come to have an idea of how the antibody titers are behaving in these patients. So of course, early days, we still have to look at it and understand the efficacy, the seroconversion of this vaccine takes place in what percent of the population, how effective and how effective it stays in that range, wherein it can remain protective against the serious forms of the COVID infection. It might lead on to that we are going in for 2 jabs a year. It might be 1 jab a year, but certainly the way COVID is now behaving in a pandemic form, it looks like that it is here to stay, and the next 3 to 5 years will be crucial.
All right, the next 3 to 5 years will be crucial. Dr. Nayak, do blood pressure lowering or lipid lowering medications affect the vaccine?
Oh, no, again, see, just like how I alluded that antihypertensives, that is blood pressure medications, are not going to affect any vaccine. Similar is the case with lipid lowering agents. And one of the small study or observational thing was that lipid lowering agents will decrease the infection rate or decrease the seriousness of the infection. However, it is again an observational thing, not a proper data-based study. Since this pandemic is exactly new, our medical fraternity has to do a lot of research on this to find out exactly where we stand and how we can contain this infection, and exactly the question which was previously asked, how many jabs to be given in a year, whether according to, see, most of us are already taking influenza vaccine, pneumococcal vaccine every year, those people who are at high risk. I think the same will continue with this. Maybe every year we may have to take a jab along with the rest of the immunization. And I'm sure in the coming days we will have a concrete evidence with all the people putting our head together to come out with strong against this COVID infection. And I'm sure it will be there, the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. Dr. Verma, can people who've had a bypass surgery or even have had a stent inserted go ahead and get the vaccine safely?
Certainly. As I said before also, that all patients with heart diseases, irrespective of whether they have undergone interventional treatment or are on medical management with our routine blood thinners, they can safely go ahead and get the jab. There is absolutely nothing to fear. And we still see a lot of resistance in our outpatient clinics, especially with the elderly patients refusing to undertake the jab. So this is something, a challenge which we are all facing in our practice, and it's our duty to, and courtesy NDTV through your medium, I think we should be able to spread this message loud and clear that the vaccine is safe in practically all populations and in all age groups.
All right. Now, Dr. Nayak, we have 2 vaccines currently, Covaxin and Covishield. Do they protect against the new strain of COVID from the UK?
See, Covaxin has been found to be effective in the newer strain, but Covishield, we have no much evidence again. But I personally feel that both of them should be given to everyone who is going to come across. We are not sure, as I said in the just a couple of minutes before, that we are still in a toddler stage about all these things. We are not sure of what is happening. We know that this is a situation wherein we have to be very, very alert. We have to take care of ourselves before we take care of others. So everyone should know that we are at risk. It should not be that I have vaccinated, so I am not at risk. A person with vaccine still can have. You all have gone through the news media, everywhere in social media, everything is there that a person getting vaccinated can get an infection. So it is not that we have, whether it's Covaxin or Covishield. One may say that in a few study may come saying that Covaxin is safe or Covaxin is very much effective against the newer strain. But that is not the answer. We are not at sure of things. But we are sure of one thing for sure, that we can get out of the situation if we take care of ourselves. That is again the SMS policy. And getting vaccinated for sure. Without fail, everyone should get vaccinated, whether it is Covishield or whether it is Covaxin. We are supposed to get, and we should be the winner. And we will win. That's what it is.
All right. Dr. Verma, you spoke about this a bit earlier as well. In the last year, in 2020, when we were under lockdown, when the pandemic had just, been announced and the cases were going up, a lot of people put off surgeries, elective surgeries, of course. What would your advice be to them now? Should they go ahead and get those surgeries done?
Yes, certainly. As far as we strongly believe that the healthcare delivery systems are such, the hospitals are following the COVID protection norms. I think there is nothing to fear in terms of the pandemic, whether it's still raging and it's not coming under control. But as far as your medical conditions go, especially the medical conditions where treatments cannot wait, I think that's the most important thing. I'm not asking you to go and get a routine gallbladder surgery done just for the sake of it, but certainly something which is relevant to the cardiovascular system, the heart, the brain, and maybe some other vital organs in the body, which deferring the treatment or delaying treatment can affect the outcomes in those particular group of patients. I don't think we should be waiting even in pandemic times. And the guidelines, and I'm sorry, there are no that way guidelines laid down of which surgeries to do and not to do, but certainly it's best in the hands of the treating doctors to decide on that, and for the patients to take that final call.
Okay, I'll ask this question to Dr. Verma. If you could tell us about the difference, between people who are asymptomatic and pre-symptomatic in COVID.
See, asymptomatic people are basically, as we call it, the healthy carriers. They could be anyone. It could be a 18-year male. It could be a 50-year male. It could be anyone. Someone who is just incidentally tested, maybe a rapid antigen positive or a RT-PCR positive, but is not manifesting in form of any symptoms or abnormalities in his blood tests. The symptomatic, of course, we understand the symptomatic forms of COVID could be mild, moderate, or severe. And to begin with, the mild infections will always start with a flu-like syndrome. And the only difference being this time between the wave 1 and wave 2 is that people now are coming with slightly more atypical presentations, especially conjunctivitis, number 1, diarrheas, number 2, and certain other manifestations of COVID which were not seen in wave 1. People are this time presenting more with skin rash than with the other than in the last wave. So there are some differences in clinical presentations.
All right, and finally, Dr. Naik, if you could, explain to viewers about the duration between doses. Recently, for Covishield, the duration was increased from 4 to 6 weeks to 8 to 10 weeks. And if you could tell us why this is important.
Currently, there are two kinds of vaccine available in India, the Covaxin and the Covishield. The Covishield was the first to come. We all had our jab 4 weeks between the two. The current data suggests that it is better to give 6 to 8 weeks at least after the first dose. The reason being, it is better efficacious and the protection is better as you space it further. So that is the reason why it is given at least 6 to 12 weeks after the first dose. Covaxin is to be given after 4 weeks after the first dose. The reason being, there is no much data on the Covaxin. Having said that, the data has been collected, and I'm sure in the coming days we'll have a data to say that when should be the second dose of Covaxin to be given. As of now, any person who takes Covishield should get their second dose at least a space of 6 to 8 weeks after the first, and the person who takes Covaxin should take after 4 weeks.
All right. Well, thank you so much, doctors, for joining us and answering all those questions very patiently. And the message from all the doctors is to go ahead and get yourself vaccinated to protect yourself against coronavirus. That's all the time we have. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.